Hello, everybody, this is Tim here again, here another movie review. I just got done watching Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Now, a lot of people have reviewed this movie already. I remember when this flick was announced, I was actually excited for it. I was like, oh, a new Jeepers Creepers movie, from somebody else or whatever, instead of the controversial Victor Salva. Could be interesting, and it's going to be a reboot. Could be interesting. I was excited to see what they would do with it. As far as the Jeepers Creepers franchise goes, like the first movie, I think is easily the best. I think it is an awesome, like, suspense thriller creature flick. It's not really a slasher movie, even though you can kind of classify it as that, because the creeper's only really after like two people through the whole movie. The rest of the people he kills and eats are really only people that happen to get in his way, because the other two, Justin Long and Gina Phillips, I believe is the actress's name, are hiding in the police station at the end. But overall, that first one is awesome. The two sequels, part two, I actually think is mediocre. It's like all right. Part three, I think, is just kind of passable. However, I actually do like part two and part three as slasher movies. When I don't compare them to part one, I just look at them as slasher movies because they turned the franchise into a slasher franchise starting with part two. Then I think part two is like pretty good, and then I think part three is just good for a B movie slasher from a lower budget. Kind of looks like a made for Sci-Fi Channel movie at times, but overall, for what both those movies are, I think two is a pretty good slasher, and I think three is a good B movie slasher. And I can understand why people hate three. I can understand why people don't even like two, because both compared to part one, they're not good. But if taken for what they are, creeper slasher films, I think part two is pretty good, and I think part three is good for what it is, a B movie slasher on a lower budget, obviously, which makes it a B movie. But yeah, as far as Jeepers Creepers Reborn, I was excited about this when I heard about it. Watching the movie, it's a disaster. This is easily the worst horror movie I've seen all year. It is the worst movie I've seen all year. It's a reboot. They tried to build up some interesting new mythology for the creeper, like kind of connected to voodoo. And there's a cult for the creeper, but because it's a lower budget movie, there's only like three members of the cult that we see in the entire movie, like two chicks and like one dude who we never learn anything about. They keep hinting at wanting to explore the cult and all that, and I was like, oh, the movie's building up a mystery. I can't wait to find out what the hell this cult thing's about. I was like, oh, this is interesting. They're building up a mystery, and then by the end, no answers whatsoever, none. And of course, it's supposed to be the first part of a trilogy. There's not going to be sequels to this. If there are, I will be amazed. But yeah. And then there's this horrible like green screen sections of this movie or whatever, where in the background everything is like green screen multiple times and just looks really terrible. Um, the creeper in this sucks. Like he looks more like a bug instead of like the creature from the Black Lagoon from the other movies, and it's clearly not the same actor. It's so much more human creeper. Every now and then like one scene where he kind of smiles, like he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get you." I thought that was kind of neat, but other than that, he's way too human. Like he's wagging his finger at certain points. It's just way too human for me for the creeper. He's also really way dialed back power wise than the other creeper from the other three movies. He's kind of a pussy. Like he gets beat up like multiple times, like easily. Like he gets shot in the hand once and has a hole in his hand, and the black dude just runs over there and starts like hitting on him. The creeper's like, "Oh, stop!" Like a big puss. Like he's like pulling his stuff back. And later on, he gets in a fight with the redneck dude. The redneck dude ends up whooping his ass by the end and getting away. He hits him in the back. With a friggin' record player that the creeper has, and it's weird because the creeper loves this record player. And after it gets tore up by hitting him in the back, by the redneck dude hitting him in the back with it, he like looks down like, "My record player." It's really weird. The chick in this movie and her boyfriend, she's like pregnant or whatever, and we see like signs that this voodoo woman's like, "Oh, he will be pleased," and she's like calling this other person on the phone or whatever. It's like they're trying to lure her to the house, like they knew she was coming, but at the same time, there's other signs in the movie to point to that they had no idea she was coming, and it's like the movie's trying to say that the creeper is old and that he has to like eat the baby or consume it or whatever in order to be reborn into a fresh new body to be immortal. That feels like what they're hinting at, but they don't explain any of it. Like, why is the creeper not already immortal? Used to, he could just eat anybody and regrow parts, so he should technically already be immortal. How does this make him more immortal or something? It's never explained. Some of the imagery of the cult and stuff is slightly well shot, and I will say I think I've heard some people like dog the acting in this. The acting in this is not too bad. This is basically a routine slasher. The acting in it from most of the cast is like, I think the main girl is good. She's fine. The black guy in this, I think he's okay as the boyfriend. He's okay. The redneck dude in this actually liked because he was whooping ass most of the movie and beating the shit out of the creeper once, And then he just ends up dying lame because later on, towards the end of the movie, in the climax, they're on top of the house that they're locked in, and they're planning a trap for the creeper. And basically, the chick has him out there, and she throws the creepers like throwing stars that she has, which I don't remember her even getting, but I guess she must have found them when they're in the house, and hits him with them in the eyes. It's just, and this is the line everybody's been talking about. How about them peepers, bitch? Which is like next to do your thing, cuz I think it's honestly even worse than that line. This is horrible. That was horrible. I can't believe they had her say that. You can tell this is a bad director working on this movie. But her acting overall, I thought was good. It was fine. And like I said, the black dude who plays her boyfriend, he's okay. He's fine. The new creeper, he looks like shit. But yeah, and we get to the end, and the like after the creeper's like been killed, like all these crows start flying out and everything. Now the crows, like the creeper, always kind of attracted crows in other movies, but here it's almost like the crows are in cahoots with him. Like the crows show up and they're like attacking the black dude and the redneck on top of the house, and the redneck dude just falls off the house, and that's his death. He after he survived everything, he randomly dies by falling off the house, and a lot of the deaths in here are like off screen, which is weird. And you can tell they had like no budget for this film because there's a sequence where this like hot Asian chick or whatever who's blonde like gets her like brain took out. Nice gore, but the creeper has it. And he's like eating it, but he's not really eating it. The actor's just like moving his mouth around it, acting like he's eating it, but he's not actually. You can see he's not actually really putting his mouth on it. I assume that was probably because they made it out of something to where the actor couldn't actually digest it or eat it. But you can tell, and it just looks so bad. Yeah, this is a 0 out of 4 overall. And then at the end of it, there's also this white crow or whatever that keeps following him around and following the creeper around, is like leading the other crows. Kind of a neat design. The special effects for the white crow weren't too bad, I don't think, for a low budget movie. But he never explains anything. And at the end of the movie, the black dude and his girlfriend or whatever, pregnant girl, are getting in the car, more bad green screen. And they're getting in the police vehicles or whatever. The police have shown up. And that's another plot hole in this. There's a scene in the movie where they're in there, like inside the house, and there's a phone in there, and they're able to call the police. It's like the cult acts like they knew this chick was coming, almost like they planned for it because they have the house and everything rigged up to get them there, like extremely fast. But why the hell would they leave like a working phone in this place? This place has been condemned for years, so why would there be a working phone in it? It makes no sense that they were able to call the cops. But yeah, it gets to the end, the chick's like in the vehicle all at once, her eyes turn black. And I've heard some people say, well, is she possessed by the creeper or what? I don't think it's meant to be that she's possessed because there's no section in the movie ever shows that the creeper actually possesses her or anything like that. And it's never even shown to be an ability he has. I think more or less it's just to show she's marked by the creeper and her eyes turning blank is just to symbolize the creeper and her are linked and that he's still alive. I think that's what they're trying to say. And then you get to like the last shot of the movie after like the police are taking him away to safety, where it's like you see the crows all like swirling around and the creeper just like all at once looks up at the camera and goes, "Wah!" Like real fast. It's really friggin' retarded. But yeah, overall this is 0 out of 4. Even as like a standalone, this is what this feels like. It feels like a standalone like cult slasher movie that somebody just rewrote the script and put the creeper in. Even taking it as that, this is bad. This is really bad. This is easily the worst creeper film of all of them. Like even looking at it as a slasher film, like I did the second and third one, this is still terrible. And looking at it as a creeper film, it's even worse. Yeah, 0 out of 4. This is bad. It was a complete waste of celluloid. It was an awful film, devoid of any imagination. The only imagination in this movie is really the opening, where it's got like D. Wallace and this other old dude. And the old dude's kind of doing a good acting job. D. Wallace is like kind of bad here in this opening. But you think it's like a remake of the original where the two people were driving, or Justin Long or whatever, Gina Phillips were like driving on the road at the beginning and they were seeing like the creeper dump somebody down a pipe. But you find out, no, it's actually a true crime reenactment that was done for YouTube that the black dude was watching at the beginning. That was kind of neat. But overall, other than that opening, this movie's horrible. It is awful. You're not missing anything by not seeing this, especially if you like the other three films or any of the other three films. You're not going to like this, even just compared to the original as a reboot. It's awful. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.